The Ross Kaminsky Show. Now, Ross Kaminsky on Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW.
Rob Carson filling in for Ross Kaminsky today. And I'm here for another hour. The number here, 303-713-8255. Or you can actually write me, Carson on the radio at gmail.com. Carson on the radio at gmail.com. On Facebook at Rob Carson Show and robcarsonshow.com. You see what I did? It's called branding, folks. It's called branding. Now, if people were just listening, then it might make a difference. Yeah, anyway, check it out, robcarsonshow.com. I think you'll like it. I do a talk show, and I also a syndicated comedy writer, and I do cooking videos. Yeah. And my wife makes me watch HGTV every night, and I love it. Actually, I really enjoy HGTV. Love Flipper Flop. Love Fixer Upper is the deal. I mean, come on. Tiny Homes is okay. I need to, you know what? Hold on. I need to find. I want them to do a tiny homes. These people, they get these 200 square foot houses, and they're delightful little couples. They get there and they move in with their St. Bernard puppy and their two toddlers. And they go, oh, this is charming, 240 square feet. I want to do tiny homes 1 year later when you're ready to kill each other. I'm going to share. I did a piece of satire on that. I'll find it. We'll play it before the end of the show. I had mentioned earlier because Donald Trump has rolled back a lot of the climate change policy that Barack Obama enacted, which is overreaching with the EPA. It's going to be great for fossil fuels because, let's face it, wind and solar ain't getting it done, all right? It's just not. And there's also been pretty much a moratorium on nuclear power in the country. We had a massive infrastructure investment in things like Solyndra that went bankrupt. And the last time I flew on a 747, well, actually, I've never flown on a 747. The last time I flew on an airliner, it wasn't driven by solar power. Okay, it's driven by fossil fuel. My car runs on fossil fuel. I don't have a fancy schmancy electric car that costs a lot of money and that is subsidized by the government to the tune of $8,000 to $10,000. And by the way, when I go to Home Depot and I go to whatever, Bass Pro Shop, whatever, they always have 3 or 4 electric car vehicle plug-in stations, which is free, and nobody ever is there. But I had to laugh. The environmental groups in Colorado are going after it, including the Natural Resources Defense Fund. The Environmental Defense Fund. EDF President Fred Kripp said, rhetoric about protecting the environment cannot obscure the fact that the president's executive order launches a process explicitly designed to allow air pollution levels to go up. This will allow premature deaths to go up, heart attacks and asthma attacks to go up, and sick days from work and school to go up. From the statistics you pull out of your rear end, the EPA says rescinding the Clean Power Plan would cause up to 3,600 more premature deaths this year. 1,700 more heart attacks. Again, from your rear end, 90,000 more asthma attacks. We're going to, 300,000 more missed work days and school days. It's according to the EPA. Yeah. Senator Michael Bennett, Democrat, Colorado, says the anti-climate executive order is a direct assault, I should say, on the health of our children and on a clean energy economy, which isn't really moving very well. President Trump's decision to rewrite the Clean Power Bill could jeopardize thousands of new jobs and billions in our economy and produce a confusing patchwork of state laws for American businesses. Tell that to those guys in Pennsylvania who worked as coal miners. And again, this is about elitism. This is about people who say you should have poison light bulbs in your house while we live in big mansions. You should drive little smart cars. And I love the smart car. You know, the smart car. Nothing against Mercedes, but it's kind of arrogant to call it a smart car. It's a car that has 2 seats and can't carry groceries. And when you're in an accident, how smart do you feel now? Speaking of cars, self-driving cars are coming to Colorado. Could be coming very soon. I want to ask you this question. Here's the number, 303-713-8255. If you had a self-driving car, what would you do while the car's driving? What would you enjoy the most while the car is driving? Would you read a book? What would you do? 303-713-8255. The national poll about what people would do if the smart car was doing the driving. What would you do? Your calls are welcome. But it's coming. Here's the report from Channel 9.
This isn't some theoretical thing. The driverless car is already every bit as real as the horseless carriage, just not quite so common yet. Virtually every big company in cars or tech is working on it. Ford, Google, GM, Tesla, Lyft, Uber, which just had a driverless car end up on its side in Tempe, Arizona. Now that seems like a bad headline for self-driving cars until you learn the cops said the human driving the other car was at fault. Here in Colorado, our self-driving car policy is not a thing yet.
Right now, there is no current law, so it's not clear that you can do it, and it's not clear that you can't do it. And so we're just saying very clearly, you can do this here in Colorado.
Now, I like to drive. And if I owned a McLaren, it was a $1.5 million car, I'm not going to let it drive itself. Even if I had a much less expensive car. And just even a nice, Dodge Challenger. I wouldn't want to drive that car. I like driving. So I don't want to forsake driving altogether because driving is fun. What would you do with a self-driving car? Why would you look forward to self-driving technology? 303-713-8255.
Provided you can follow all the rules of the road just like any human driver.
Senator Owen Hill is one of the bipartisan sponsors of Senate Bill 213. It's a simple bill, just 5 pages long. It says you can put a self-driving car on Colorado roads if it can obey all the traffic laws. If it can't, you need special permission from CDOT and State Patrol. And it bans local governments from creating their own laws on self-driving cars, so the rules will be the same statewide. It's too simple by far, if you ask the trucking industry. The Colorado Motor Carriers Association points out there's no minimum testing required before putting a self-driving car on the road, no state agency in charge of approving those cars, and no extra safety requirements for bigger self-driving vehicles like trucks and buses. And all that's true, but supporters of the bill think there's a bigger beef, one you can see in this test of a self-driving beer delivery truck in Colorado. There's no driver there. This technology threatens to make drivers obsolete. Now, we may end up there no matter what. But
this could signal a bellwether shift in the economy. You get rid of drivers. First of all, you're getting rid of cab drivers. Okay? There's people who make a living. That's going to trickle down to the beaded seat cover makers. I mean, that's going to kill it. It's going to kill the industry. But seriously, Uber, if you're an Uber driver, a lot of people are saying, because of the economy, you don't have a job. A lot of people are saying, okay, I'll drive Uber. Well, guess what? Uber could just go, goodbye. Now, the person who owns that Uber car that is self-driving will be able to make a living with it. You can buy a bunch of Uber cars that are self-driving. You set them out on the road, and you are responsible for maintaining those and all that. But you get rid of the drivers. Also, let's talk about truck drivers, long-haul truck drivers. This is something that the Teamsters should be concerned about, right? Do you think eventually that every road in the country will be populated by autonomous vehicles? Here's the thing. Here's what could happen. Autonomous vehicles, you have to have some sort of insurance on them. But you don't have to worry about DUIs. You don't have to worry about other things, There is always the possibility. There is always the possibility that the car can have an accident, but less likely with a machine driving and not you driving. Now, what does that do for the insurance company? What does that do for the insurance agency? Okay. What about all those policies for liability, for whatever? Does that go away? Here's another one. You ready for this? What about municipalities that have become reliant on all these traffic fines and red light tickets and speeding tickets and all of this stuff? What happens when these vehicles obey the law? It's going to be very impactful. It's going to be very impactful. What do you think? Your calls are welcome, 303-713-8255. I want to be able to drive around town in my car. When I do long-haul trips, I would love to be able to turn it over to the autonomous driver. All right? Remember Total Recall, Johnny Cab? Hell yeah. Johnny Cab, go. Go, Johnny Cab. I'm just going to chill. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to do whatever. But it's here. Colorado may legalize self-driving cars. Are you going to be a part of it? I saw something kind of funny about this, though. Say, poll by PR Newswire as to what you would do if you had a self-driving car. What would you do if you had a self-driving car? For me, I'd probably watch a movie. Or talk to my kids. Or just talk to my kids. You know, it'd be a lot easier on fathers because you could, immediately turn around and say, if Johnny Cab has to turn this car around, then he will. You hear that? That way you can kind of yell at your kids and not get so distracted when they're fighting in the back seat. That is kind of an advantage as a father. 2% of people plan to exercise in their car once it can drive itself. Can you know what? Can you just relax and just, you people who are really into the CrossFit and all that, you don't need to exercise in your car. 5% plan to drink alcohol behind the wheel. 13% think it'll be illegal, I should say, to drink in cars if you have a self-driving car. And of course, did you realize there was a car? A friend of mine said it was an early 70s car, maybe even a late 60s car, that actually had a liquor cabinet in it, and it had hoses out of it, and you could pour yourself a drink. Not kidding. It might have been a Cadillac. Number 7% I should say, would engage in bow chicka bow bow. Uh-huh. This includes 11% of men and 3% of women. See where it'd be a little easier for the men? Karen is on the line. She has some thoughts. Karen, welcome to 630 KHOW. I'm Rob Carson. Your thoughts, please.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
It's interesting listening to you describe how you would handle it, because you're right. Americans are not going to turn over their keys to a robot. It ain't happening. We're going to drive when we want, where we want, as far as we want to go.
Yeah. But
that's the way it is. Now, your long-term distance thing, I do turn over the keys to my pilot, and I get there a lot faster.
Really?
But I'm not going to do the driverless car. I will do an airplane.
But Karen, wouldn't you, like for instance, you're out and you're consuming beverages. Wouldn't it be nice to, rather than call an Uber or a cab, or just say, I'm not going to drink, to get in a car and have the car drive you home? It would wreck the lawyers' advertising at 3:00 in the morning on local television stations.
Absolutely. So it'll never happen.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
The litigators will see to it.
See, Karen, this is kind of funny. My wife, you know what her fantasy vehicle is? The vehicle that I've always thought, I want a sports car, whatever. Hers is a limousine.
Wow.
Because she can just sit in the back and let you drive.
Opens the door and has the champagne in the back. By the way, that's the car that has the liquor cabinet.
Yes. That's what she would do. And she could give a rat's behind about driving.
Oh.
See, I can't get...
I love driving. This society decades ago would do a Sunday drive.
Yes.
Everybody get in the vehicle and you'd go drive.
Yeah.
And you'd go to, here in Colorado, you'd go to the mountains, or you'd, go out to the prairie, you'd see something.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of been an American thing. And to think that we would be willing to turn over that control is mesmerizing to me.
Yeah.
I won't be a part. I don't even want the computer in my car.
Yeah, well, Karen, I can relate because, when I get behind the wheel of my wife's 2004 Sienna tan minivan, I go, baby, I wouldn't want a machine to drive this. When I can be behind the wheel of this badass machine, I'm going driving.
Right, or a classic car. Classic cars would become obsolete. So your 66, 65 Corvette, no.
That's true.
It can't be. It's not going to be driverless. So the classic car will be a thing of the past, literally.
Well, we can't have that happen, Karen. Thanks for the call. You know, there are some cars you drive that you acknowledge other people in traffic. I've had a Jeep. A Jeep, you have the one-finger index wave. It's off the wheel. There you go. That's what you do. There are other cars that there are similar acknowledgments that you have the same cool car. I had a Hummer H3 for a while. Well, there's another Hummer H3. You did the nod with the ball cap, just a little nod, little maybe wink like, hey, nice Hummer. When you drive your wife's Toyota Sienna minivan, you cover your face, and you see another man driving up next to you in a Toyota Sienna minivan. You do not make eye contact. You do not acknowledge that you're driving your wife's Sienna minivan. Mike's on the line. Hello, Mike, and welcome to 630 KHOW. Your thoughts, please.
Hey, Rob, how you doing?
Glorious, my friend. What's up?
Good. Hey, well, I just wanted to, I just think that it's interesting how much about the media. And really the fact is that this stuff is so far away, and we're talking about it like it's going to happen tomorrow and like it's going to change our lives, and it's disruptive. And I think that, yes, it will happen. I'm a car dealer, by the way.
Oh, okay.
And yes, I think it will happen. I think, down the road, 20, 30 years, maybe 50 years, we're going to be having, completely driverless cars or at least a large portion.
Sure.
But to think that this is, in any way going to change our lives over the next 10 or 15 years, I think is nuts. 10 years ago, people thought, oh, by 2020, and the experts were saying, 30, 40% of the cars on the road are going to be electric. Well, last year, 1/2 of 1% of the cars sold in the U.S. were electric.
Yeah.
So,
well, at the same time, though, Mike, think about this. I remember in 2004, I moved to Washington, D.C., and my phone could take grainy pictures and send text messages. Now my phone is a supercomputer with a high-definition camera that has a phone app.
Right.
So I think it's going to happen sooner. What kind of cars do you sell, Mike?
Maserati, Alfa Romeo, Fiat. I'm Mike Ward. So,
well, look at you. Look at you, little fancy pants with your Maserati. Mike Ward. Okay, I'll give you a free plug there. Mike Ward, Maserati, Fiat, and what else?
Alfa Romeo, Infiniti, and McLaren.
Wow, it sounds like you go there, they serve you pasta.
Yeah, we'll do anything.
All right, brother. Thanks for the call.
Hey, you bet.
Take care of yourself. Oh, some other things that we would do behind the wheel. 10% would meditate. 19% or 11% would play video games. My son would My son doesn't even want to learn to drive. He's 17. They're going to get self-driving cars before he even learns to drive. 19% would take naps. Well, I do that when I'm driving anyway. 21% will watch videos or movies. 27% will read. 34% will text and reply to emails. Again, I do that when I'm driving anyway. I'm teasing. 45% will talk on the phone more often. I hate talking on the phone. No way. All right, coming up, we've got a Big Bang Theory star saying that you shouldn't call women girls. Why some of, is your wife, if you're a woman, whatever, Tiffany's, how much do they charge more for diamonds just for the blue box? Going to share that. Why vegan mothers are a worse threat than drinking mothers and smoking mothers, among other things. It's Rob Carson. You are listening to 630 KHOW, Denver's talk station. No, crank that up. Kind of a gloomy day. Soundgarden always makes it better. Turn it up, come on. Sing it with me. Chris Cornell is a god. You know what? I don't get starstruck by people very often. In my studio, to my immediate left, is a signed photo of Chris Cornell. He's a god. Okay, here's the hook. Go, crank it up. Here we go. I'll be listening to that when I go to the gym today on the iPod. God bless Gen X and the rock music they brought with them in the early 90s. Okay. Again, my name is Rob Carson, filling in. We've got another segment of the show here before I have to depart. I hate that because I've really had fun, and you guys are just fun. You guys are fun. You guys are great. Shannon, my producer, fantastic. Really enjoying my time here. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. I want to get to a couple of things here in a second. One of the things I mentioned, I'm a syndicated comedy writer. And if you ever listen to the Rush Limbaugh show, I started in my early 20s writing for Rush, and I did a lot of the satire you heard on his show. So he was kind of famous for it for a while, and then he kind of moved away from it a little bit. But he's still a radio god, Rush Limbaugh. But I wrote a lot for him, and I write non-political stuff as well. And I was talking a few minutes ago about self-driving cars. And I believe Mike Ward called in today. Mike, that was really cool. Glad to have you call in. Really, really nice to have you call in. I'm honored that you would call in. But one of the things that people would do behind the wheel if you had self-driving cars is, text and call. I did a parody a little while back about iPhones, because iPhones are always coming out with new iPhones. Everybody's got a new iPhone. Listen, are you ready for this? I've had an iPhone 6S for a year. I know. Could you believe I might as well have one of those old wind-up telephones where you have the earpiece you put up and you talk into this. I might as well, right? This thing's a year old. I think they're on the iPhone 12 now or something. Anyway, this is making fun of technology that is immediately antiquated for the next technology.
Nice smartphone you got there.
Yeah, it's the new iPhone QSE5 4G LTE 5000.
Awesome.
Oh, it's amazing. It's got a 5-inch high-definition screen with HD capability, an 18-megapixel eyesight camera with panorama.
Neat.
Yeah, and it's got 1080p HD video recording and a 3.5-inch Retina display with FaceTime video calling.
Jeez.
Yeah. Not only that, I've got access to 700,000 apps and... Oh my God, what the heck?
You're getting a phone call.
What?
Just push that red button and talk to the person on the line.
Hello? Mom?
The new iPhone QSE5 4G LTE 500. Hundreds of new and complicated features. And it makes calls too. Imagine that.
By the way, all of the things in the description of the product, they're real. Everything that was the screen and the apps, the 700,000 apps, that's all real. That's what makes it funny. Kind of scary. Kind of scary, right? Oh, can some people just take a damn joke? I write comedy for a living. And, some people just are so damned uptight about everything. There's a North Carolina jewelry store. And they put up a billboard that's controversial. And what it does is it has a bunch of gemstones all over it. It's really funny. And it says sometimes it's okay to throw rocks at girls. Everybody's upset about this. There was a billboard that's been going around for years, heating and air conditioning places. And on the billboard it says, your wife is hot. And then it says, fix your air conditioner by calling us. That's been all over the place. I mean, if you think it's an original idea, it's been everywhere. But it's okay to throw rocks at girls. Everybody's upset. Chelsea Clinton is upset. It's about abusing women. I mean, is throwing a diamond at a girl worse than biting a woman's lip when you try to sexually assault her in a hotel room? I don't know. But here's the story about an offensive billboard about throwing diamonds and other rocks at girls.
A small protest over Nashville jewelry store billboard that created a big social media stir. About 15 demonstrators picketed outside Spicer Green Jewelry.
What? 15 people? That's huge.
It was on Patton Avenue downtown. This was organized through a Facebook post.
Yes.
They're upset about a new billboard near the Jeff Bowen Bridge that says, quote, sometimes it's okay to throw rocks at girls, and shows 7 precious gemstones.
It's a joke.
Protesters say they don't believe the company's intended message was to promote violence.
Because it wasn't.
But that it still sends the wrong message.
No, it does not send the wrong message.
The thought that it is ever okay to throw rocks at girls, which we are offended by in and of itself, is something that we cannot agree with.
Jewelry is meant to be given in love, and that's how we meant it. We meant it that when you love someone, you should shower them with gifts.
Wow.
Spicer Green says the summer design for that message on the billboard, well, it's going to be changed. It was already in the works. The request has been put in to move up the schedule for installation once that changeover is ready.
People just need to learn to take a joke. UK Daily Mail decided to go after, just see, you go and you buy diamonds, and I hate buying jewelry for my wife. I really do, and she loves Tiffany's. She freaking loves Tiffany. She's under the spell of Tiffany's. UK Daily Mail decided to see if luxury retailers like Tiffany & Company, Cartier, Van Cleef, and Harry Winston have better diamonds than places like Costco. All right? Now here's a little bit from the story done by the UK Daily Mail.
Millions of people buy a diamond ring every year. If you're one of them, you probably lose your mind just hearing the word Tiffany's.
Yes.
Tiffany box.
But that's just the result of clever marketing. Because what all these people don't know is they're all pretty much buying the same thing. You see, brand name stores depend on people believing their diamonds are special. It's how they get away with charging you so much money. To maintain this illusion, they keep the information about their diamond rings a closely held secret. Their websites only list starting prices. In person, they don't allow any flash photography, and they're really protective of their diamonds' exact statistics. The truth is, all jewelry stores are selling variations of the exact same diamonds. So I figured I'll prove it, and at the same time find out which brand name jewelry stores are the biggest ripoff.
Now, I don't want to make this just an attack on jewelry stores. But when you, gentlemen, and ladies, I know you shop for diamonds too. Can I talk to the guys? Just don't be offended. You need to learn about cut, color, clarity. You need to get one of those little eye thingies, and you need to recognize a clean stone when you see it. Okay? When I bought my wife's engagement ring, I went in and I said, no, that's no good because this, and this, that's only a G, blah, 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 whatever. She was flabbergasted. But it worked. It worked. Here's what apparently what they're saying. This report, I'm not saying it's the end all, but places like Tiffany, Cartier, Harry Winston overcharged by about 330% for identical stones sold in Costco. It doesn't take a genius to recognize a good diamond. You just have to learn what is a bad diamond and what is a good diamond. Color, cut, clarity, those measurements will be given to you, and you just go, oh, that's good, that's a G, that's a what, that's an F. And then, of course, just the clarity of the stone if you look through the little eyepiece. It doesn't take a genius. My wife got a hell of a rock, let me tell you that right now. Oh, I've been mentioning this. Why vegan mothers are more likely to have children who perform worse at school. Vegan mothers are more likely to have children who perform worse at school, according to a new study. They are preventing their infants from getting enough of a vital vitamin in the womb. This then affects the development when they are being brought up, according to the last Norwegian study. In the research on young infants, low levels of vitamin B12 found mainly in meat, dairy, and eggs made them score worse on tests. They also struggled to complete puzzles, were less able to recognize letters, and interpret other children's feelings. Vegan mothers are preventing their infants from getting enough of the vitamin in the womb, scientists warn. Norwegian experts believe that having a deficiency impairs and even delays brain development in small children. Veganism is an eating disorder. I've been saying this for years, and I will say this about vegans, because they're not strong enough to step up out of a chair and confront me. They get really lightheaded and they pass out. The scientists collected blood samples from 500 infants in Nepal to measure their B12 5 years later. All these youngsters went through a bunch of tests. Those who had vegan mamas had a lot of problems. Getting enough B12 comes, again, from milk and eggs. And deficiency can lead to neurological problems. It's necessary for the body's vital functions. The deficiency can also cause anemia, and severe damage to the nervous system is sustained over a long period. Eat real food when you're pregnant. Okay? Right? If not for you, for the baby. All right, let's talk a little bit about this Big Bang star Mayim Bialik. Now, I love the show. She is very funny. The cast is great. She's 41 years old. I didn't know she was a Gen Xer like me. She says in a new video that she doesn't think that people who call women girls are correct in doing so. You should not call women girls. I'm going to play a little bit of this. Get your thought on it. Ladies, is being called a girl, is that really bad? Because being called a boy as a man is different, is very different. But if you see women out and they see each other, hi, girlfriend, you know, guys don't go, hi, boyfriend. Well, some do. But is it equivalent to call a woman a girl as calling a man a boy? Here's a little bit from Mayim Bialik.
I'm going to be annoying right now because I want to talk about something that a lot of people don't want to talk about. I was recently at a bar with two guy friends who are about 40, and one of them said to the other, oh my God, dude, look at that girl sitting at the bar. She's beautiful. And I start looking around, wondering why they would let a child into the bar. Then I realized that when he said girl, he meant woman. But since she's in that super narrow age range between 5 years old and 55 years old, we just don't know what to call her. So we call her a girl. Sorry, folks, I have to do this. We have to stop calling women girls. Why? Because it matters what we call people. Language matters. Words have meaning. And the way we use words changes the way we frame things in our mind. Google Sapper Whorf if you don't believe me. It's science.
Okay, so she's saying you should not call women girls. I think it's different. Maybe this isn't important to you. Here's a little more from Mayim Bialik.
In fact, it implies that they're inferior to men. Even if that's not what most people intend, words have an impact on our unconscious. Case in point,
on our unconscious.
You would never say to someone, go ask that boy behind the bank counter if the notary's here today. We never call men boys because it's demeaning and emasculating. And are there women who don't mind being seen as diminutive because they think that men should be in charge and that they should be tender and delicate? Of course. And there are all kinds of men and women, and I promise that's okay.
I think she's misguided here because I think both sexes are regarded differently. If you call a man a boy, it's an insult. A girl, women are not the same way. I want you to listen to a couple of songs, and I realize the irony of the very first selection here because Gwen Stefani was talking about being the diminutive girl. She's just a girl to make a point. But the other songs are just about girls having fun. All right, and if you listen to, for instance, urban music, rap, whatever, you hear a lot of women calling each other girl. So I think it's a little different. Maybe it's not important to you, but I just thought it's a little different. Just a little bit different. Oh, this is funny. Now, we've got a war on masculinity going on in school. It starts in elementary school. It goes all the way up through college. It starts with kids in there was a 4-year-old the other day. It might have been in South Carolina. He's out with his grandpa, and grandpa likes to shoot. And this little boy picks up a .22 caliber shell, an empty shell, a fired shell casing, puts it in his pocket, brings to school. He has been suspended from school, from preschool, for 7 days. Stupid. You cannot make a gun shape with your hand at recesses in elementary school. You will be suspended or at least have to go to the office. Well, a university is hosting masculinity confession booth. The University of Regina in Canada, a masculinity confession booth where you can confess to the sin of being masculine, right? Here's a little bit from the Daily Caller.
A university will be hosting a masculinity confession booth along with a number of other workshops and screenings to combat hypermasculinity. We have all reinforced hypermasculinity one way or another, regardless of our gender, explains the University of Regina event description. Come and share your sins so we can begin to...
Your sins for being masculine.
...discuss how to identify and change our ways. The Man Up Against Violence initiative will be hosting these events at the University of Regina in Canada during the present week. The Masculinity Confession Booth will be making its debut Monday, but is also listed on the schedule for Tuesday and Thursday, days on which students can also attend a healthy relationships and healthy masculinity workshop. Yet another event will seek to redefine the phrase man up. At the
Man up. You can't say man up. All right. Did you realize that us guys who are masculine, most of us ain't violent. Most of us ain't wife beaters. Thought you should know.
Man Up Against Violence initiative. We challenge mindsets and behaviors with regard to the social construction of masculinity.
This is gobbledygook.
And its relationship with violence. Details the Who We Are part of the site. We work together to bring light to the causes of all types of violence related to gender, race, socioeconomic status.
This is the same thing you hear at every university in the country. It is, and pardon the expression, mental masturbation. It makes no sense. It's overthinking yourself and twisting yourself into a knot of thought that you can't escape.
Ability level and beyond. Man Up Against Violence aims to reduce violence, but also challenges social norms surrounding masculinity. The group's introductory video
I need to wear a dress.
Criticizes the stereotypical...
Oh, wait a minute, I am. Did I say that out loud?
View of men as macho and unemotional, linking this to spousal abuse by asserting that men have violent outbursts as a result of pent-up emotions.
Okay. When I have pent-up emotions, I go to the gym or I mow the lawn with my killer lawnmower. One more story. I think this is kind of funny. Edinburgh, Scotland, they had a Scottish series called Eden, where they sent people out into the high country for a year to compete in the wild. They sent these people out last March for a year, completely cut off from modern society. The problem is they canceled the show 3 months into it. These guys came back, and the show had been canceled after they spent a year in the wild. Oh, my goodness. Okay, guys, it has been a real treat to be with you today. Thank you so much to Tim. Thank you very much for Shannon for having me on today. It's been a glorious gift. If you get a chance to check out my website, Rob Carson Show, Facebook at Rob Carson Show, write me, carsoninthemorning@gmail.com. Have a glorious day. God bless. You're listening to 630 KHOW, Denver's talk station.